You want to know the trick to buying a cheap old sports car? It's actually pretty simple. Just buy a convertible. It's amazing to think that when any of these European exotics were new, there were a hefty price premium to get the Roadster, but as they age, the resale value of the drop-top variants always adjust themselves lower in comparison to their coupe counterparts. And it's obvious why. They're needy, unreliable, and ungodly expensive. This Ferrari 360's canvas looks like it has about $28 worth of fabric that you could pick up at a craft store, but since it goes on a Ferrari, the price to just get the fabric part will set you back 100 times that amount. And forget any of the mechanical pieces, there's several hundred, if not thousands each, as we'll explore. Now, when I originally bought this car, I said,
got one very big problem, that's that the convertible top won't go down. Now, again, that's something that could cost anywhere between $300 and $500, or it could be a $5,000 or $6,000 repair bill.
And at first glance, this convertible top has been pillaged. A bunch of stuff was pulled apart and left a mess. The good news is we have a working, for now, Ferrari 360 Spider parked directly next to this car, so we can figure out exactly what is off on our blue car and sort things as efficiently as possible. The other good thing is that the top's motors and hydraulics actuate when you hit the switch, so it's not completely dead. The bad news is that it started raining hydraulic fluid from one of the pistons directly over the passenger side interior. I sent this piston in for repair, and around $300 later I've got it fixed, and in a moment we'll find that we're just scratching the surface on our Spider roof issues.
Oh, more hydraulic fluid. You see it leaking back there? Look. There it is. There it is.
Now, in addition to 7 years of debris all over this interior and a bit of mold growing on the dash, we now have a few puddles of hydraulic fluid around, so I think it's best we clean this mess up.
Now, when we first picked this car up, I was a bit harsh on the color scheme, all the blue going on, but the interior is actually really sharp. It's all navy blue, the carpets and the leather seats, and it's all in pretty decent shape. You can see the seats, they're a little dry because they haven't been treated in like 7 years. In Ferrari, if they do one thing right, it's the leather interiors and the leather dashboards, and this stuff needs a little bit of a cleaning, but also a little bit of a rejuvenation. My friend Alex from Legit Street Cars turned me on to this stuff right here. This is Clyde's Recoloring Balm, and this one is actually in the shade of navy blue here. I tested a little spot on the seat already, and it's a perfect color match. And the nice thing about this stuff, this isn't like a straight leather dye where you really dry out your seats. This is a leather conditioner with a little bit of dye in it. So we're gonna prep our seats and get it ready for this balm, but as we're applying it, it should bring back that life and a little bit of color into the dingy areas like the bolsters. So we got the entire Clyde's kit here, which includes some leather cleaning foam and some leather deglazer. I'll show you how all that works in a minute, but something I really like when I'm cleaning leather seats is a soft bristle brush. And while things are still wet, I like to wipe it off. So basically what you're doing is you're using these bristles to bring all the dirt to the surface, and then you're bringing that dirt into your cloth here. So we're gonna do that to the entire seat, and then we'll target some of the rougher areas with that deglazer. This looks like some paint particles or something that's really stuck to the leather. You can see my hand isn't wiping it off. We're gonna see if this brush will clean it or not. That's another good thing about a brush versus just a towel. Let's see. Yeah, look at that, much better. These are two pieces of trim that came off the seat that are both wrapped in leather, and we're going to use these here to show you exactly what that recoloring balm is all about. So first, again, just a simple clean. With the leather piece clean, we're now going to deglaze it, and think of a deglazer like an ultra cleaner. It's just going to strip the surface if there's any sort of coating or anything that would prohibit the dye portion of our balm to enter the surface here. You just put a dab of deglazer, I hardly use any, and you wipe it all clean. And you can see how much dirt came off right there. Now in the kit we got a few of these little sponges here, and the instructions say to apply it in a circular motion. Let's just take a little bit, and you can see this leather is already just like drinking up the balm. I imagine this is really amazing on like those black interiors where there's some of those really stingy spots that show up and they're really tough to wipe out, and you've tried cleaning them. This will touch up any of those dulled areas and basically make them look new again. So here's what everything looks like directly after applying the balm. It's amazing the transformation it made. You could see the grain all back in the leather compared to our other piece, which we haven't done anything to yet. Here's your before, Here's your after. I can't wait to see what sort of difference this makes on the seat bolster. Now we waited a few minutes for the deglazer to dry on the bolster here. You obviously don't want to apply it while things are wet, but it is pretty warm out here, so it doesn't take long. Oh, look down here. You can just see where there was like some white stripes. It's just all disappearing. It's really nice. Say that we just do this segment of the seat. I imagine when it dries and we condition everything, it's all just gonna match. You know, we don't really need to apply this except for the areas that are really dingy, really dull. This is really looking nice. Now we let these treated areas dry overnight, and then in the morning I applied some of this leathery moisturizing cream on the entire seat and just let it sink in. After a while I buffed the entire seat with a dry microfiber towel, and here's the result. This is our worn out bolster from before, and here it is after. There were a bunch of other little blemishes in other places that virtually disappeared with just a simple application of Clyde's Leather Balm. It's like an anti-aging serum for your leather interior. Applying this balm just adds one simple and effective step to your traditional leather cleaning and conditioning that makes a huge difference. Right now, if you hit that link in the description and use code SAMCRACK at checkout, you can save an additional 15% off your order at Clyde's Leather Company. Seriously, this stuff can transform your car's leather interior and make it look like new. Again, that link is down in the description. I gotta give a huge thanks to Clyde's for sponsoring this video. And would you just look at that? No more of that nasty mold all over the dashboard, just a clean and conditioned leather surface. Man, there's really no telling how good this would all look when we first picked it up since it was so nasty in here. But after seeing those seats and now with the dashboard all clean and conditioned, I'm telling you, I think this thing is going to look mint when it's done. We'll take care of some of these other cheesy touches like the carbon fiber wrap on some of the trim, but right now we got to knock out the hard stuff. I want to go to the convertible top. If you remember last time, whenever we first tried to actuate this thing, it started leaking heavily right out of the frontmost hydraulic piston. After doing a little bit of research, it turns out that this is probably the most common hydraulic failure when it comes to the Ferrari 360 and a lot of similar generation Mercedes-Benz convertibles. They use this same exact piston, which actuates the locks, and that locks the convertible top to the windshield frame. Now, upon doing these searches, I found 3 or 4 different companies that rebuild these parts with new seals on the inside, so they obviously stop leaking. They also upgrade them in certain aspects, and I'll show you that in a second. But I sent mine in just about 3 days, they turned this thing around and sent it right back. Now here's that repaired cylinder back where it lives in the convertible top. You can see a few of the upgrades that they've made to it. Before, these hydraulic lines were crimped in place, and this was supposed to be a non-serviceable part. Now they have bolts securing the lines in place, so it's much easier to remove and repair in the future. And then we have these quick connects, which makes this a true DIY job. These provided an easy removal and install solution, so you don't have to dismantle your entire roof to get the piece out along with its hydraulic line. All this cost right around $300, and all I have to do now is tighten up these connections with a wrench, and we'll hopefully have hydraulic pressure back in our system. I remember vividly when we first went and looked at this car, and Andrew grabbed the rear wing on the convertible top, and he goes, "You could see that this is all broken back here." And he was pointing to something specifically in the mechanism, but the fact that he just lifted these wings up, these are definitely not supposed to do this. You can see on the green car, this is totally fixed in place. It shouldn't have any movement. That's because there's brackets that keep everything in the right place so that when you operate the hydraulics, it all moves and goes where it should. Now, when we do lift this entire rear portion up, you can see all the brackets and everything. And we inspected this and compared it to the green car, and everything seems to be here, even though a lot of it's been thrown around. We're missing a few little simple clips. The main piece that's broken, the part that keeps these wings down, are these tiny little brackets. They're a simple L shape, and it's clear that either someone actuated this roof when it was in the wrong position after a prior repair, or they just manhandled things and they snapped this little peg off the end of the bracket. Since these brackets are so simple and small, I figured they couldn't cost that much money. I hopped online. They are readily available, but they're $250 a piece plus shipping. We need both of them, one for either side. But $500 for these little things, I might as well give a shot at actually just trying to repair them. Now I don't really need this part right here, so just to make things simple, go ahead and take it off. So here's the bracket off the car, here's the broken part, and it really just kind of slides right back in
almost flush, just like a puzzle piece. I want to see if I can't just grind this and weld it real quick. That welder we just used is the cheapest one you can get at the bargain tool store. I am an amateur, and these brackets still turned out pretty good. It's perfect for little repairs like this. Everything feels really sturdy. I put a little bit of pressure on this peg to make sure it's not just gonna break loose again. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna loosely bolt these into the frame, but I'm not gonna connect them just yet because, like I said earlier, I think that everything's kind of in the wrong position back here. We risk the possibility of these just snapping off again. Now that both of these are repaired and we've got that piston replaced in the front of the top, I think we can go and try and actuate this system. Let's see if we can't get it in the right place. All right, first of all, we're gonna look there. Leaks, anything. Now, look, obviously it's not doing anything, but my first thought is that there was a lot of hydraulic fluid up in those lines to begin with, and now there's none because we just went and reattached it. So maybe it needs to circulate some hydraulic fluid, and I'm wondering if there's a bleeder valve on that tank there. Let's try this a little longer. All right, so that motor back there is what is moving. Oh, I hear something. Oh, more hydraulic fluid. You see it leaking back there? Look. There it is. All right, here's our next problem. All right, so here on the passenger side, behind this hydraulic block area here, is exactly where we were leaking out of. You see that little screw? And I took a closer look because it looked a little bit like a bleeder screw, and maybe I thought that this was opened up and someone just forgot to seal it. No. It is leaking higher from there. It's leaking from this piston right here. You see it's all wet with hydraulic fluid. So that piston has failed, which begs the question, what does the driver's side piston look like? Oh, no way. Look, that's all wet too. Both of these hydraulic rams are failed. So I just called the company that repaired our first piston up here, and I asked them, is it pretty common that somebody sends you in one piston, they hook it up, and then they find other pistons leaking? And they said all the time. The two most common ones that fail are the secondary ones, and immediately I thought, are these the secondary ones here? So the ones behind the driver's side and passenger side seats, those are the secondary ones, right? And they go, no. Secondary ones are the ones in the canvas itself. And I'm going, there's more of these things? And they said, yeah, and as a matter of fact, the ones that are in the canvas will sometimes leak backwards, dump onto the area we're looking at right now, and people will misdiagnose a failure in these pistons for the secondary pistons. There's 7 total in this system. There's 2 more in the engine bay here. We'll look at those in a second as well. So at this point, we just got to figure out which ones of these things are leaking. Now, supposedly the secondary ones are located like somewhere in this area of the canvas. But before we see if those have failed, what I think we should do with the back still open, I want to focus the camera right on the piston that we thought initially was failing. I'm going to actuate this top one more time and just see if it leaks oil out of there. We know that we've got these 2 failed, and then we can move on to figure out these. Let's see what we see. Well, it's definitely spitting out of here, yeah? All right, so those 2 are definitely failed now. They said that if you feel any sort of moisture on the cylinder here, oh yeah, these are all wet. You see these? The good thing about these is that these hydraulic lines are actually held in with bolts. It makes you wonder why in the heck they chose to put this one in without bolts at first, but make these ones user replaceable. I don't know. We've got to pull this one out. Let's go check the other side. Yep, this one's a little wet too, and this one. So far, 5 out of our 7 pistons are defective. All right, we become experts at removing these pistons.
That's perfect.
All right, once this is loose enough, you can turn it the rest of the way by hand. And so, all right, that ram is loose in there. You see it?
Yep.
The pin for this ram just comes right out like that. The lines last. All right, and that's it. Now, I've got one question for everybody out there. As we're removing each one of these pieces, which
they're all worth a good amount of money, and each piece complicates the system. At what point do we just make this a manual soft top? Let me know what you think in the comments, whether that would just be the smarter idea here. With both the secondary pistons removed, I've got to look at the workshop manual and see if we can remove these two without removing the entire convertible top cassette. My friend Radarosa just removed the entire convertible top cassette to do some engine service on his Challenge Stradale Spider build. He said that this is extremely heavy and you need more than just a couple guys to lift it up. You really need something more like a lift. So it's a great thing that we have one of those now. Now really quick, I wanted to just show you guys the last 2 out of 7 convertible top pistons. They live in the engine bay here. There's one either side, and they raise and lower this platform. What's usually bolted to this platform is that cover that we removed so we could see inside the convertible top cassette here. It's what covers the convertible top when it's in its stowed position. Now, again, the way you easily check these is you just feel on the piston itself here, and if it's wet, that means it's leaking hydraulic fluid from here. These both feel really nice and dry, which is a good thing because I'm pretty certain those are the most expensive to repair out of the entire set. Have I given you enough reasons as to why you should never ever touch an old exotic convertible top car? It's amazing to think that the 260,000 mile Corvette convertible top works just fine, but the big difference is that that's an electronically powered system. This is hydraulic, and I still think to this day the luxury and exotic makes still use these hydraulic tops, and I don't really understand the benefit. If you know, let me know down in the comments. Maybe it's because it's more prestigious, because it's more expensive. I will tell you this, if you took this car to a shop and had them do what we're doing now, I think you'd be into the 5 figures very quick. If you consider it costs $300 to refurbish one piston, well, do the math. We've got to send 4 more in. And well, I just confirmed that that cassette does have to be removed from the car in order for us to get the 2 main cylinders out. So it's going to be a little bit of a job. As far as I understand, it's not super difficult. It's the lifting it up and out of the car that you want to be really careful with. The good news is, while that is out of the car, there is tremendous access to the engine. So we can really take this as far as we want and get this car in a mechanical state where it would be really, really nice and worth a lot on the resale market. With a working convertible top and a really fresh service, it'll be a home run, but there's a lot of labor involved to that. Let me know how far you guys think we should take this in the comments. If you remember my earlier videos with the green car, I went and removed the entire intake manifold, and during that process you replace a lot of really cheap gaskets that are super prone to failure. If we do that entire service, it might cost another $1,500 to $2,000 in parts, but it will make this car super reliable for at least the next 6 to 12 months. So over the next few days, I plan on trying to rip out that convertible top, but in the meantime, I've been messing around with the engine computers, and I've been talking to a few different people to figure out a few solutions to make this blue 360 even better, and I'll bring you that update shortly. In the meantime, I've had 2 of my long-term cars, the cars that I've kept longer than anything I can remember, have failed in pretty considerable fashions. One actually catastrophically. So I'm really excited to bring some of the old cars back to the channel for some long-term updates, but as always, I'll be updating you on my Instagram there first before anything goes live here on YouTube. So hit that link down in the description box. Make sure you're following along. And guys, if you feel like you learned something in this video, make sure you give it a like, and I want to thank each and every one of you for watching today. I'll catch you very soon.